So there's a picture that's going viral of Pastor Lungi M. I think she was doing a 40-something birthday or something like that. And she posted this picture. I had to draw over the picture because the picture is a very provocative picture. How low I've drawn there is how low her dress went. I literally had to just draw like over the entire thing because her boobs were literally just hanging. Okay, she was just like fingertips away from showing. It's just too much. It is too much. Now she did respond to this with a video that she posted on her social media, but she wasn't talking in the video, she was preaching. So she took a certain portion of a video and she posted that as a response to everybody else. Interesting. And this is the video here. You can see this video makes me ask, did she understand people's concerns or not? But the video says this, you know what they say to you, okay, you are welcoming their words to your life, okay. Then it goes on to say words are like a seed. All right. The man who is wise in the Bible, name is taratata, and then she quotes the verse, says life and death, taratata. If you listen to what people say but you speak words to override what they say. So that got me concerned. Did she understand people's concern? But anyways, if she's saying that to override people's concern, I don't think she understood it, but that's just me. You know, I believe as humans, we have a role to play where God has placed us. The person has been put as a pastor. God has put you there to be effective, responsible in that particular area. Here as a man, you play that role. Here as a woman, you play that role. You know? And so, which is why the flag people are completely way off the charts, because they are now trying to redefine that, or by defining it themselves, or bringing up their own terms to define self. But I want to take you to 4 different verses that actually talk about this subject. Now remember, the topic on this video, it's not the boobies. We're not talking about the poops. We ain't got time to talk about that. If you want to go on that lane, I'm sure there's people online that want to entertain that line of thought. First verse I want to talk about is 1 Timothy chapter number 2, verse number 8 down to verse number 10. And this verse is very important. I have 4 verses that I want to read, but just listen to how he puts this. He says, therefore, I want the men everywhere to pray, lifting up holy hands. And so he brings up this idea, man, continue playing your priestly roles as you would, as we started in this particular subject. And he says, likewise, I want the women to adorn themselves with respectable apparel. The clothing, it must be respect. Okay, maybe that's me. No, that's the verse. It says, I want the women to adorn themselves, clothe yourself with respectable apparel, with modesty. Okay, and so you don't think respectful only, but also think about modesty, the modesty. So, okay, Ricky, I'm covered, right? Respectfully. So, covered respectfully. It says with modesty and with self-control. How do you dress with self-control? How do you do that? How do you dress with self-control? I have another verse that I'm going to read here that actually pins to where Paul is getting this idea of dressing with self-control. Don't allow your flesh to dictate. You got a big bums. Do you have to now wear big bum clothes? Because you know that there's big bum clothes nowadays. There's clothes that are literally made. You decide that part. Paul says, dress respectfully, with self-control, not with braided hair and with golden, with gold pearls and so forth. It says expensive clothing. He says, but with good deeds, as in up for a woman professing. So he says, think about what a woman who professes faith is like. Yeah, dress like that. Now, you define what that looks like. I'm not here to do that for you. I'm here to give you the verses for us to think about these things contextually. First Peter chapter number 3 verse number 4 then says, your beauty should not be on outward adornment. It says the clothes on the outwards. Yeah, be careful about that. Yeah, be careful about that. He says, but from an inward disposition of your heart, meaning the way I dress should show. Okay. The unfading beauty of a gentle and a quiet spirit. What does that look like? What does a gentle and a quiet spirit look like? Does it look vulgar? Does it look provoking? Does it look like, wow, flates and so on? And I'm not talking about just random lustful things, but I'm just talking about in general. What does it look like? I'm asking you, right? What does that look like? And then he says, quiet spirit, which is precious in God's sight. Think about that. If God was to see your outfit, precious in God's sight. I thought that was quite an interesting one. Verse number 5 then goes on to say, for this is how the holy women of the past adorned themselves. So think about that as well. How would they have adorned themselves if they were? That's not me. That's the verse. Now think about another verse here. First Colossians chapter number 3, and it puts it out like this. It says, for here there is no Greek nor Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, a barbarian or so forth. And he says, therefore, as an elect of God, holy and beloved, clothe yourself with hearts of compassion and kindness, in humility, gentleness, and patience. Meaning, think about all these qualities in how you dress. He says, oh, it gets a bit sensitive on the next part. He says, bear with one another and forgive any complaint you may have against someone else. Notice how he puts other people in that whole equation. You dress yourself within this thing with humility and so forth and stuff, and then he says, bear with one another. Don't forget that part. Don't forget to bear with one another if you're thinking about them clothes and them type of things. Last verse would be Romans chapter number 13. And then he says, let us behave decently as in daytime, not in drunkenness, as sexual immorality and debauchery, not in dissension or jealousy. He says, instead, clothe yourselves with the Lord Jesus. What does that look like? This is an area, that's why I say it's an area of growth. Clothe yourself. So think of how you present yourself in this tone. Clothe yourself with Jesus Christ. How does that look like? He says, make no provision for the desire of the flesh. That's a verse that I was talking about. Romans chapter number 13, it hangs it down. He says, make no provisions for the desires of the flesh. Don't put it that they must desire. When people start making tattoos on their hands, they start wearing short sleeves because there is something they want to show, right? I'm only going to give that example. You think further on that one, or think further on that lane. Okay? And so it helps for us to think about how we appear biblically. It's part of our discipleship to be responsible. Don't be like Cain. I'm not my brother's keeper. You are your brother's keeper. Don't be a dummy. Don't be a dummy. And people get very touchy when it comes to clothes or how to dress. They become very touchy very quick because they identify their clothes as themselves. You're not your clothes. Don't be that childish. Dress decently. It's that simple. Dress decently. Then someone will come here and make an argument. What if that's the only clothes? No, we're not talking about them. We're talking about you. What if someone doesn't have clothes? No, we're talking about you. Do you not have clothes to dress yourself decently? You're a Christian sister, must you wear tights going to church? Now I'm talking about those ones who just wear tights, only tights. If you're going to church with tights, must you wear tights? Because other people wear tights. You must wear them. You do not. Do you not have clothes? Because they make the argument. You see someone make the argument, what if that's the only clothes? No, we're talking about you who has clothes. When you stand before Jesus, you think you're going to have time to say, but what about, do you think there's time for that? We must hold ourselves accountable. A lot of people do not like, because why? They don't like holding themselves accountable. And as a result, what they do is they flag. They just keep flagging. You just keep throwing flags over the... you're not fooling anybody. Okay? You as carnal can be. We can just keep it 100. You can't be responsible to the next brother. You don't care for that next brother. You would rather he's attracted to you than mature in God. You would rather that new brother come into church like you so that he can marry you than him drop off these areas of lust that bound him when he was in the flesh, when he comes to church, so that he can be your husband. You'd rather that. Let's just be honest. And again, I'll say this before I end this video. I'm not saying these things because I'm trying to change you. I'm not available. I've said that I think I have to say that on each and every single video when you address the opposite gender, because someone would think, oh, Rick is trying to cater something. No, I'm not trying to cater nothing. Okay? In my household, it would not be. You ain't wearing that. No, we're not doing that. We are not doing that. Personally, it's an area of maturity, and I think a lot of people, a lot of women will stand before God and they'll be very much shocked at how much reward a lot of women would have lost because they preferred themselves. They preferred. Now remember that other verse that I read a little bit earlier on. Okay, so to bear with one another, because in this area a lot of people will lack, you will lose a lot of rewards, because there's a lot of brothers that probably didn't grow, because once they saw you, he built this lust. Now, we're not talking about people that just build lust off of anything. I'm talking about people that are intentionally trying to provoke a reaction from the opposite gender. Dress modestly. That's just about that. How you deal with that, because once we get into that area, y'all get touchy. You put feelings over doctrine. We're trying to have people mature and grow. You can't help but put yourself in front. You can't help to put your boobs in front of their faces. Y'all grow up and stop being foolish.